Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is Cody Tanner. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, you already recognize that it's just me. If you're listening, it is an episode of just me today, unfortunately. The family situation that James was dealing with, unfortunately took a turn for the worst. So as he deals with that and we give him his time, we are very excited to talk about Steelers football. But again, keep James and his family in your prayers at this time. If you're the praying type, we appreciate that very, very much. Steelers football is back officially. Week 1 home opener against the 49ers took place. We're going to break it all down, talk about it. We're going to go over kind of everything with the game and just kind of talk about it, and we'll see where it goes. Being on a show by myself, you're only going to kind of get my input. Me and James did talk briefly beforehand, and he told me some talking points that he would like to have discussed, so we'll make sure we get those involved. But before we get there, the inactives for the game, they had Mason Rudolph inactive. They had Desmond King, the new cornerback they just brought in, inactive. The tackle, Dylan Cook. Gunnar Olszewski was inactive, and Armon Watts, the nose tackle. Those were all the inactives before the game. Now, Pittsburgh did go into this. I think they were the underdogs, but I think it was only plus or minus maybe 3 or 4 points. If I'm not mistaken, I could be completely wrong. We could have been not been the underdogs. But again, this was a game that you look at the preseason, you look at the additions that Pittsburgh's made in the offseason and all this stuff. It should have been a close game. It should have been a nail biter or a tough contest. And unfortunately, that just was not the case. For those of you that have watched it, which I'm hoping is all of you, it was a 30-7 loss for Pittsburgh. So this is not a victory Monday, unfortunately. Actually, it's Tuesday. I wasn't able to record last night. So we are here Tuesday morning recording. We're going to kind of go through all the major talking points. First thing off, Kenny Pickett struggled going through his progressions. He had his first interception, and it was actually kind of on Deontay Johnson. That's something that James and I talked about, and James wanted to reiterate that technically wasn't Kenny Pickett's fault. I will say this. There was a part in this game where Kenny Pickett was sacked or tackled and took a hit that I felt maybe could have been argued concussion protocol. His head did bounce off the ground pretty tough. I'm surprised they didn't check him out. I'm not saying that's an excuse for his play after the fact or anything, but he did seem off all game, which was strange. I mean, I shouldn't say all game. The one touchdown pass in the end zone to Pat Freiermuth was a beautiful pass, right on target, and he had a couple other good ones. He played fairly well through the game. The 2 interceptions are going to kind of haunt us a little bit, but quite frankly, Kenny just seemed off from what we saw in preseason. Kenny just didn't seem to be playing as himself, didn't seem to be going through like James when we talk about his progressions very well. There was one play when he scrambled to the right. He actually had a wide open player on a crossing route. I can't remember who it was at the time, but that would have been probably almost a walk-in touchdown. Just a rough game all around. He also didn't have a whole lot of time to throw the ball. The offensive line wasn't up to snuff, I would say. They did not perform as well as they did in preseason. This is arguably one of the best defensive fronts we'll go up against all year, so I don't necessarily have major concerns for that. I think Pittsburgh can come back from this and improve. The play calling, neither here nor there. I'm not as amped to say that it was the play calling that caused issues like I have been in the past. I am excited and hopeful to see Matt Canada make some changes and some just some better blocking schemes for the running play, for the pass play, for all of it. Getting guys in there to block. Jaylen Warren and Anthony McFarland both not afraid to pick up blitzers when they're blocking for Kenny, so that's a plus. The running backs, there was no room to run. Quite frankly, like I said, the offensive line struggled to keep holes open for the running lanes, and they also didn't block very well for the pass, unfortunately. They were all rated fairly poorly by Pro Football Focus, which is neither here nor there. Again, Pro Football Focus has seemed to be against Pittsburgh in a lot of ways. I'm not saying they're out to destroy us or destroy our scores or anything like that, but the offensive line did not perform well. Anthony McFarland, however, did have some nice kick returns to the point where they started kicking away from him. So that was a plus in the special teams aspect. Tight end room, Pat Freiermuth had a great touchdown reception. We talked about that. Darnell Washington manhandled Bosa at one point, did a very good job blocking, sealing the edges on a couple run plays where nothing else would form, unfortunately. Um, but I'm excited to see what Darnell Washington can do for us in the future moving forward with the blocking game and then getting him involved in the pass. I mean, he's a large target. We don't have Zach Gentry anymore. He's the second tight end. Connor Hayward's, jack of all trades kind of guy. He might be a fullback. He might be a tight end. We'll wait and see. D-line, unfortunately, Cam Hayward is hurt, more than likely going to be going on IR. I do think he's going to need to take some time off and have surgery based on what I'm seeing online for his groin injury. So we'll see what happens there. DeMarvin Leal played through an injury. Keanu Benton played very well and pushed the pocket well. I was impressed to see that. He also actually ran down a couple runs along the line pretty well when they were running outside. Montravius Adams sucked, unfortunately, other than his hustle on the long touchdown run. He was hustling, trying to catch up. But that D-line, unfortunately, didn't have a lot going on. And quite frankly, it was a bully game. We got bullied throughout the majority of this game, and I hope that it's a pride check for Pittsburgh after this. I hope that every single aspect of the team gets talked to. And honestly, if I was the coach, I'd make them watch film in silence. Kind of let them motivate each other and let them talk it through. As a coach, there's only so much you can do. And Mike Tomlin's not the type, in my opinion, to just stay quiet, but that's something that I would consider. I think the team is kind of going to call themselves to hire after this. At least that's what I'm hoping to see. Outside linebackers, TJ Watt, amazing. 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, MVP like game. And yes, I'm saying MVP, not just defensive player of the year. TJ Watt is if you can get 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles a game, that is an MVP year. That is a defensive player MVP year all day long, barring some crazy record-breaking quarterback play or something. Middle linebacker, not good enough. Unfortunately, Elandon Roberts did not look the part on this defense. He lacked speed. The lack of speed that he doesn't have was evident. He was unable to keep up with players over the middle, unable to, catch down, run down running backs, CMC, whatever. It was just unfortunate. I do think they're going to change up the middle linebacker depth chart here moving forward. I don't necessarily think it'll happen immediately next week, but I think they're going to look into that through practices and stuff like that. Cornerback room, Levi Wallace did not play well, unfortunately. Pat Pete had 2 great pass breakups, even though he got beat for a touchdown. He did slip in the back of the end zone. That happens. It's unfortunate that happened. The safety position, they avoided Minkah all game long. They threw wherever he wasn't. I don't blame them. That's just a technique now. It's very evident that we need other safeties in the room. Keanu Neal and DeMonte KZ just did not play well. I believe it was KZ that got blocked by a running back that, as James put it in our conversation, he was blocked by a running back that didn't even lose a step in his stride. It was kind of like wiping off a bug off your windshield with the windshield wipers while you're driving. It was very sad effort on his part to make a tackle on a play, or make a play on a play, I should say. Boz played well. Boz for president. He had a good game. If I'm not mistaken, he was 1 for 1 on extra points. That was all there was. He technically could have had chances for field goals and stuff. We chose to go for it on 4th down multiple times. That's okay. I think we were 1 for 2 on the game, if I'm not mistaken, or 1 for 3, I think, actually. Harvin had a good game other than 1 punt. Presley Harvin actually had 6 punts in the game in all. 1 was inside the 20. His longest was 57. It was what it was. When you have to punt all day long, you're going to have those numbers, and it's just unfortunate. As far as the injuries go, I already talked about Cam Hayward. Deontay Johnson has an injury that I'm not sure if we have updates on. I'm excited to see what's happening there and hopeful that he's able to come back. So I'm actually going to check on those injuries right now. But again, this was just a game where I felt like Pittsburgh got out-coached, outplayed, performed. They just did not, and Pittsburgh fans have been saying this for a while, myself included. It doesn't always feel like Pittsburgh comes prepared for these games. And even when they do, it's like after the fact that things get changed, and things should honestly especially after a preseason, you should come in there. And George Pickens even said that they used coverages that they weren't expecting and this and that. There's only so much you can do to plan for a game if they come out with a different game plan than what you were anticipating. Um, so that's unfortunate, but I do hope that we see Cam Hayward come back after surgery. I'm not saying consistently that he's not. I'm not saying that he's going to consistently miss the rest of the season. Deontay Johnson, I haven't seen an update on his hamstring injury. He was holding his hammies after a play. You fear the worst in that situation. You feared maybe he pulled a hamstring. Hopefully, didn't tear a hamstring. That would be horrible. But again, the guys played fairly well. Looking at the guys, Quan Alexander was all over the place when he was in. TJ Watt, obviously, the 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, making plays. The 1 forced fumble was tough because Brock Purdy was holding it on his back. TJ Watt kind of had it. I don't know. I don't blame the call standing on that Brock Purdy had possession. But it's tough when you get those situations where defense is making plays and offense can only manage to put up 7 points when they were, scoring at will. It felt like first team offense in preseason. But again, that's preseason. They weren't always going up against the number ones. They were not going up against guys like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. All the guys on the San Francisco 49ers team that we talked about in the preview. It was very unfortunate that we didn't come out ready for that. And it's felt like in any aspect, quite frankly. So I'm hopeful for this next game. We do have a game, obviously, next week. We have an early bye this week, but we do play the Browns next week. Browns coming off a major upset win against the Bengals. They held the Bengals offense to only 3 points. We'll have to see what's going to be taking place there. I'm excited and hopeful. We typically play well against the Browns, so we will see. That is a, if I'm not mistaken, that is a Sunday night game next week. So we'll be excited for that. James will be with us for the next show. That show should be coming out Saturday morning, if I'm not mistaken. And depending on our schedules and his schedule. But again, keep your prayers and thoughts with him and his family. They are going through a lot right now. And if he ever wants to open up with you guys about that, he can do that next time on the show. Again, we thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys have any predictions or any frustrations you want to air out, let us know. Send us a message. We'll talk about it on the show. I also want to mention per James, because James is always excited about this. If you guys do listen on Apple Podcasts, give us those 5-star reviews. If you write something in there and not just put a 5-star review, hit submit. We will read your review on the show. We will talk about it. We will thank you. And we appreciate all those 5-star reviews. That's just another way outside of sharing things on Facebook and liking things and commenting. That's a way to get this podcast out there. This is something that James and I love to do, and we're very excited for the future of this show. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe and ring the bell. It's free. And until next time, this is your host, Cody, and signing off for James as well. Peace.